Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining the Clallam EDC Coffee Chat, Coffee with Colleen. We are really happy to have Noah Glaude from the North Olympic Library System, NOLS, join us this morning to talk about the proposal that's on the ballot for increased funds for the library system across uh, the North Olympic. I assume that's Clallam and Jefferson, but we'll hear more. So a few housekeeping items before we get started. If you'd please keep yourself on mute so we don't inadvertently pick up background noise. And also, if you will, uh, if you want to ask any questions of Noah, you can either put them in the chat and I'll ask them on your behalf, or if you'd like to ask them, please raise your hand and we will call on you. This is being recorded and will be on our website, clallam.org, later on today. So if you wanted to share it or look back at anything, you'll be able to. And please, we love this to be interactive. So please go ahead and feel free to ask questions, either again by putting it in the chat or raising your hand. So with that, I'm going to let Noah take it over and start his presentation. I know he's got a set of slides for us. Go ahead, Noah.
All right, thank you, Colleen, and thank you for this opportunity. My name is Noah Glaude, Executive Director at the North Olympic Library System. I've been here at the North Olympic Library System since 2011, and prior to that was at the University of Washington Libraries, and where I received my bachelor's degree, master's degree, and here at NOLS, I've held a few different positions: branch manager, assistant director, and became the executive director in summer of 2020, in the middle of the pandemic. So it feels like long ago, but not that long ago, but it's been exciting to be in this position. And I plan to just share a little bit about the library system itself, and then shift into talking about the levy lid lift that is on this ballot on April 28th. So I'm going to share my screen here real quick. Give me a moment. And make sure this. Can everyone see my logo right now?
Looks perfect.
All right. Great. All right. So just a little bit about the North Olympic Library System. We have 4 branches across Clallam County. So we do just serve all of Clallam County. There's a separate system for Jefferson County and a city library in Port Townsend on the peninsula. So we have branches out in Clallam Bay and Forks on the west end, and then Sequim and Port Angeles. And Port Angeles is our kind of main service center where our administrative offices are, and support services are all based out of Port Angeles. So we have a 5-member board of trustees, and they are appointed by the Clallam County Commissioners. But that is the extent of the connection between NOLS and the county. So we are not governed by the county at all, or by any of the cities, or the state, or the feds. We are our own local government. And
you are a junior taxing district.
Correct. We are a junior taxing district, and I'll get a little bit into our funding later on here. But just to be clear,
Okay.
We are our own local government, not a part of the county at all. That is kind of a common misconception about how we're set up and how we're run. So completely independent in that way. So in addition to our branches across the county, which are, it's a really located and great spots, really close to schools, in the middle of neighborhoods. Every one of our branches, here in Port Angeles, where I'm at right now, we have Jefferson Elementary right across the street. Kids run over every day. Teens are coming down from the high school, hanging out here at the library, and lots of folks can get here easily. And that's the same for each of our branches. If you go out to Clallam Bay, I was there the other day, and 3 o'clock, there's a pack of kids that come running across from the school to hop onto their computers, just hang out in the library, do crafts, and it's great to be positioned in those places. But the fact is, we're a big rural county, and not everyone can get into our branches easily. And so we have made an effort to extend our reach across the county and be as accessible as possible for all residents. And so the bookmobile is one of the ways we're doing that right now. The bookmobile was actually a kind of essential service and part of NOLS for decades, from the 1950s through the mid 80s. There was a bookmobile that traveled around the county. It went away, and we were able to bring it back with grant back in 2023 that got rolling again, and it is now, making stops and locations like Beaver or Joyce, out to La Push, areas between our major towns and our branches where folks cannot normally easily get library services. The photo on the right here is a stop at the Port Angeles Food Bank. So, that's more outside of Port Angeles. A lot of folks are going to Walmart, stopping by the food bank, and us being able to set up there, that has been really popular, and just one of those ways where we can reach people and make our services more accessible. So, in addition to the bookmobile, we do have outreach delivery services, and these have been around for decades, really. But basically, what folks can do if you are homebound, or even if you have a temporary injury, you break your leg and you're unable to make it into the library for a few months, you can sign up for these delivery services, and we will deliver a tote of books, DVDs, whatever you're looking for, audiobooks, once a month, and pick those up as well. And so we have um, really hundreds of people that have signed up for the service across the county. Most of the users are in Sequim and in Port Angeles area, but folks on the West End can sign up for it as well. And it is really, really important to the folks that utilize it. We hear from many seniors, older adults that are homebound, from them and their families, that having someone drop off these materials on a regular basis is really important for them. We also deliver to assisted living homes and facilities like that as well. And we're always looking to just make people aware of those services. A lot of folks don't know and are really happy to find out when they learn they can sign up for it. I'd like to just mention other things that the library does. It gets a lot of attention from patrons. Our NOLS gear collection just gives people an opportunity to try, really just try different experiences, try different equipment, might meet different needs. And pretty much all of these things are donations as well. So they're not things that are costing the library additional funds or anything. The telescope there on the right, we had about 4 of those donated by an Elks group, and then people can check those out. And I have 3 young kids. They have short attention spans. I might not want to invest in a telescope that will get used one night and then sit in the closet for years. I've checked out the telescope, can use it for a couple nights. It's great, and then you can return it, and someone else can try that out. Same with the musical instruments, for example. Those were donated by a local music store. They're maintained now on an ongoing basis by that local music store, but people can try out these instruments and get that experience. We have passes to the national park from the National Park Foundation. People can check those out with a backpack, things, field guides and binoculars and things to go and explore the national park. Passes to our local pools and museums. So again, just giving people an opportunity to explore areas around the peninsula, or to try different equipment out and see if it's something they want to invest in and further. Our online resources are a great resource. Encourage for you to check out on our website if you haven't already. Everything from kind of the traditional ebooks and audiobooks, movies, music you can stream online for free with your library card. But your library card also gives you free access to many of these services you normally have to pay a monthly subscription for, anything from $10 to $20 a month. You can get free access to ancestry.com, do research there. You're doing a car repair and need a wiring diagram. You can go onto Chilton's library and get, access to decades worth of car repair manuals. LinkedIn Learning is a great resource, especially I'd say for any employers out there. Folks can improve their skill sets for free with LinkedIn Learning. And we're now, we started partnering with the state Earlier this year, there's certification exams that can be taken for free through the library's website. An example of that is CompTIA is a common IT certification that's required for a lot of jobs. You can get that training through LinkedIn Learning and then get that certification for free as well online with your library card. Access to consumer reports, have a appliance that needs to be replaced. You don't want to pay for full access to that on a regular basis. Your library card will get you free access to consumer reports. Same with newspapers, New York Times online, Seattle Times online. And then there's just tons of additional resources there online. We've been digitizing a lot of our local history, so we have big historic photograph collections that we've been able to digitize through a number of grants, and those are now available online. We've digitized all of our microfilm as well, so all of our historic newspapers, of the PDNs, Quinn Gazettes, for the past century.
So Noah,
Yeah, go ahead.
question about all this.
Yeah.
Do you have to go into the library to access these resources, or can you do it from your home?
You can do it from your home. So you can just go to our
Okay.
website, sign up for a library card, and then you can immediately start accessing these resources. Um, that is only good for a few months. That card, you will have to come in eventually to a branch and then, show your ID and get a full card within one of the branches. But you can sign up immediately. We try to make that as easy as possible for folks
Uh-huh.
to get started.
And
Yep.
what if you got a library card 20 years ago and have no idea where it is?
Just you can sign up online still, and then your account's likely deleted at this point if you haven't used it in 20
Okay.
years. But just, stop into any branch. Really, just a photo ID is what we need to get you going with the, limited service card. For the full service card, you do need to show some proof of residency that you're living here in Clown County. So that a lot of times it's still just your driver's license, but you can bring in a lease agreement or a voter ID or other document if you just moved here and are wanting that full service card.
Okay.
Well, and you'll
Okay,
probably
great.
have to pay your late book
Return fee?
return,
Yeah,
late book
Yeah.
return account.
yeah. From my
So
kids from 20 years ago. They
yeah,
never
well,
returned the book.
yeah, we don't actually charge overdue fees anymore. Those
Oh,
were we got rid of those in 2019.
okay.
And because it was really a barrier for a lot of folks, like kids, for example, they might have had overdue fees for some books they checked out as a third grader, and then they never wanted to return to the library. And then even as an adult, we had like multiple cases like that. They're like, I can't go back to the library because of that book I returned late in third grade. And that's not what we want. So we do charge fees. Basically, the books are charged as missing and lost if they aren't returned after a few weeks. People's accounts are blocked after a couple weeks if they don't return the items. So there are incentives to return those items. We do charge for lost books, for damaged books, and all of that. But really, we send out more notices when things are late and try to get those back sooner. But we don't try to keep people from returning to the library for decades if just for a late book. Yeah.
Right.
So online resources, encourage you to check those out. They're easy to explore on the website. And yeah, you can get your library card online and jump into those very quickly. Free meeting spaces are another critical resource we provide across the county. They are free if you're not charging for the event. So, we have groups from right now, AARP Tax Aid, for example, is in Port Angeles 2 times a week, helping hundreds and hundreds of people file their taxes for free. But we have, Girl Scouts, beekeepers, chess clubs, all sorts of folks using our meeting rooms for free and really valuable across the county. In addition to the larger meeting rooms, we also have some smaller study rooms now in the new Squim building, but here in Port Angeles as well. And I encourage business owners, maybe like a small business owner, and you're doing job interviews. I've mentioned this where I've been in coffee shops and I've seen people doing job interviews right in the middle of the coffee shop, and I hear everything about the person sitting next to me. And maybe you want a more private space to do, quick meetings or interviews like that. Encourage you to reserve, a small meeting room at the library and do business like that. We have a lot of folks doing telehealth appointments as well in those spaces. Now that those are really, really popular and folks need reliable internet connection, private space, they can use these rooms for that. And then a lot of remote work happening as well. The folks that come to the library, set up the picnic tables outside and just do their work, not wanting to necessarily be at home with kids or family and other interruptions. And it works well for them to use the library for that. And I'd just like to point out how the library responds to different community needs in different ways. Like to step up and be nimble when we can. The photos here from a few years ago out in Clallam Bay, CQ area, where there was a number of weather events, road slide, water line was washed out, and they were without water for at least 5 days in that community. And the library stepped up immediately, became the main distribution point for bottled water out of that building, worked with county to have that water tank truck set up in the parking lot, worked with the Makah tribe to have Santa cans in the parking lot for people to use. We were distributing dry shampoo, other products like that for folks to have. And, I think that was a bit of a surprise to some folks of what the library could do, but we take a lot of pride in being, nimble and just responding to those needs as they come up. And if we could, we're really good at, say, distributing material and circulating things, so like handing out water, which is kind of a natural fit in this case. But we're always eager to partner with other organizations if there is a need and if we can help and it kind of fits within our skill set here at the library. So in addition to all of that, there's still a lot of just the regular traditional library services being offered and happening at the library. They're really used by a pretty amazing cross-section of the community. It's babies, new moms and parents coming into our story times and meeting new people. Early literacy is a really key area that we're focusing on, encouraging kids to read and use those skills, just programming spaces, bringing people together, internet access, whether that's on the public computers or just Wi-Fi is huge. There's a big digital divide in rural communities. Colleen was just mentioning at the beginning of this meeting, internet is horrible at her home. We see that across the county. And as I mentioned, people are coming in to use our internet, whether that's on Wi-Fi. A lot of that is now people on their own devices, laptops or tablets or phones. They're just using our Wi-Fi, using our printers. That's an important resource for people to have here. And then just the programming, we have a ton of it. We're offering in the library, we're going out to the schools, daycares, other community organizations or senior centers, and working with a lot of organizations to provide services to folks. So a little bit about our usage in 2025, about 32,000 active card holders. And just to kind of put that into context, I think it's useful to note that according to the last census, there was about 30,000 households in Clallam County. So yeah, there are about 75,000 people, but actual households is about 30,000. So there's a active card for about every household in Clallam County. We reached about 1 million checkouts and renewals and over 300,000 patron visits to the branches. And that is just to the branches. That doesn't account for all of that programming. We're in the schools on a regular basis, out in community events, and holding programs and activities all around the county on a pretty regular basis. So there's a pretty big interruption in 2020 with the pandemic, where the public libraries were forced to close for a period of time, and then offer pretty limited services for over a year into 2021. But since then, if you just look at the 5-year trend in usage, really any category across the board, everything is trending up. There is growth there. So I'd just like to note that people are using the library and more people are using the library, and part of our strategic roadmap is to increase awareness across the county and get more people coming in using these services that are available to the public and improving our community. So we're definitely heading in the right direction. Services have continued to evolve and are used in different ways, but the usage is definitely there and heading in the right direction. So a little bit about how funding works. So as mentioned at the beginning, we are a junior taxing district. So we are funded through property taxes, and that makes up about 90% of our operating budget. We like to be clear because we're not part of the county or city. We're not receiving sales taxes or lodging taxes, or we're not charging significant fees for other services. It really is property taxes that cover our operating costs. Our other major revenue source is timber from DNR managed trust lands. So that is used specifically for our capital budget. So we separate that out from our operating costs, and that is because that timber revenue, excuse me, does fluctuate a lot from year to year. So back in really after the last time we passed a levy, lead lift in 2010, our board decided to utilize that timber revenue for our capital budget. And so we know what we get the previous year, and that allows us to develop our budget for the next year based off what we have already received. So the capital budget is used to cover things like buildings, equipment. So our new swim library that just opened, we used millions of dollars that have been saved over really about a decade, specifically for that project, and timber revenue to match significant grants, and then when community donations made that swim library possible. But timber revenue was the major source of funding for that project. The same was the case in 2013 when we completely renovated the Forks Branch Library. Timber revenue paid for most of that. But right now, we use it for, and we just got a quote for a failing heat pump at our Colleen Bay Library. It's going to have to be replaced. We will use timber revenue for that. Aging technology, timber revenue, carpet that's 30 years old and no longer safe and creating a tripping hazard. Timber revenue is used to replace that. So if we didn't have timber revenue, there would be an even bigger kind of strain on the property taxes that we receive. So we do use that timber revenue, I think, really efficiently, and do want to see that continue to come in unless there's some magic source to replace that. We think it's really important in rural communities like ours. Also want to acknowledge the Friends of the Library and the Foundation. They make significant donations to the library every year. There's a separate Friends of the Library group at each branch, and they're a separate nonprofit. So they have groups of volunteers that fundraise for the library specifically. So in Port Angeles here, for example, the Friends of the Library are donating between $30,000 and $40,000 each year right now, and that is funding everything from free books that we give away during the summer reading program, the prizes for programming, when we're bringing in presenters and author talks or musicians to perform. That is all funded with Friends donations, and so that really kind of supplements what we're able to provide and kind of provide a lot of those fun things, so that our property taxes can really be used to maintain our facilities, pay our staff, and offer those essential services. All right, so the levy lid lift that I believe most of you received your ballot the past week, and those ballots are due on April 28th. But a little bit about what's on there. So right now, state law sets a maximum levy rate for libraries at 50 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. And back in 2010 was the last time that NOLS asked for a levy lid lift. At that time, our rate was at about 32 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. Of assessed value. And voters approved restoring that levy to 50 cents, to that maximum rate. So starting in 2011, we were collecting at that 50-cent rate.
And so how long does that levy lift last? Boy, that's
Yeah,
alliteration.
so it is technically, when you set it there, you're setting the maximum rate and you're setting it there, but there is this other law that was put in place back in 2001 that said basically local governments cannot increase the amount of property tax revenue they are collecting each year by more than 1%. And so there's basically this list of factors that are considered each year to determine how much we can collect in property taxes. So the first one is we look at what is the maximum that we could collect. And so that would be at that 50 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. So we have this basically this long spreadsheet with a bunch of formulas that we fill out each year. And we see what we would be collecting if we were still at that 50 cent per $1,000, that maximum level. So in 2026, if we were still at that 50-cent rate, we would be collecting more than $8.5 million per year in property taxes now based on the current assessed value. But there's this other factor we have to consider, which is no more than 1% increase per year. So because of that law and that constraint, our rate gets compressed and we are not collecting that 8.5 million. We are collecting below 5 million per year in property taxes. And what that also means is that what we are collecting each year does not increase at the same rate as inflation or just general cost. It doesn't matter if we were increasing services or anything. If you look at what we were offering in 2011 and what we're offering now, there would still be these costs that would increase, right? State minimum wage has doubled in that time. We have no control over that. We do need to pay our employees more, right, during this time. Same with insurance cost of materials, utilities, same as they've gone up for everyone, right, in the community. But the fact is we have been capped at our revenue not growing more than 1% per year. And the only way to reset the rate back to 50 cents is by going to the voters and asking them to restore that rate. So
this is the same issue that the county has talked about for years, that expenses go up much higher than 1% per year, but because of the state law, they can't increase. And that's the same with any junior taxing district. The port doesn't increase by more than 1% per year.
Yeah, so it's nothing new.
But also that it includes new construction, though, is on top of that 1% per year.
New construction is separate. So there are a few things that are pulled out of there. So that is the one piece where it is honestly a small amount, but it is separate outside of that 1%. Yeah, so this chart I think has been helpful. And Colleen, the fire districts, the hospitals, the schools, everyone is restrained in the same way, and that is why we have to go out for levy lifts on a regular basis, or you see them. It is, I'd argue, we're not doing anything wrong. This is the system that has been set up where, in order to maintain the services we're providing, you have to go out to the voters on a regular basis and ask for that rate to keep up with the cost of doing business. And so there's this common misconception that because assessed values have doubled during this period of time, as you can see here, from 2011 to 2026, they have more than doubled for the county. But what the library district is collecting has not doubled, right? They are not the same. And so we just like to make that really clear. We are aware assessed values have gone up and people are paying more taxes for, right, the schools, school bonds, fire district levies, hospital levies, all of that has increased costs, but what the library is collecting has not gone up at the same rate. And so you can see that in this chart here, which is available. All this information is available on our website. If you go to nols.org/levy, there's a lot of information there and FAQs where you can kind of dig into the weeds if you're into that sort of thing. I also
Yeah.
encourage.
And
Okay.
another thing, Noah, I want to bump in here for a
Yeah.
second that people need to understand is that if there's any capital projects that need to occur, the state law regarding public works, so if there's one government dollar being spent, local government, state government, then it becomes the entire project becomes a public works contract. And that then kicks in all sorts of expensive requirements that
Yeah.
require legal, require project management, and require prevailing wages. And so typically, our local citizens do not get any of this work. It's people from out of the area coming in, getting these jobs because the contractors that win these contracts know how to do this. And we don't have really large contractors like Neely Construction is an example that are out at Puyallup, though they do have a local office. But and then they hire union employees that generally don't live here, and those wages that have to be paid under the prevailing wage rate agreements that are set by collective bargaining agreements, the unions negotiating with the Association of General Contractors out of Seattle make it so that the hourly wage is incredibly high, like in the 70, 80, $90 an hour, and much higher than what is actually prevailing wage, a real prevailing wage of Clallam County for construction
Yeah.
occupation. So that's another reason, and it's a messed up system. We've talked to our legislators about it, but it's just, they say there's no way they're going to be able to fix that.
Yeah. And thanks for mentioning that. I think that's useful when you're looking at our swim library project, for example. That was a big project. We had to go out through public bid, and we received about, I think, 5 bids for that project. But luckily, the lowest bidder on that project was a local general contractor, Hope Construction, and so they were able to hire a number of local subcontractors as well to work on that project. So uh, again, I guess going back to the timber revenue as well, where that's revenue that came in, we were able to hire a local general contractor. That's money staying in the community. And then like Johnson Electric was the electrician subcontractor on that project. And there are tons of requirements as a public agency and grant funded from the state as well. But
Yeah, we do have
any money we could
just,
keep in place here, I'd say it was great.
yeah.
And happy to, when we can, work with local contractors, we try to do that for sure.
And that's why we have Justine and Jennifer with North Olympic Peninsula Apex that try to help local businesses get these contracts and subcontracts.
Yeah,
So we keep some of that money locally.
for sure. Yeah, and there's apprenticeship requirements as well for a lot of this work. And when we're able to, I'd say, keep those that money local and the jobs local, then that's helpful as well to provide that
But
opportunity.
we don't have the training, the apprenticeship training local. So
Yeah.
yeah, that means people are going over to Seattle, Tacoma, I-5 corridor to get those apprenticeship training hours over there. So yeah,
Yeah.
apprenticeship is a really big problem for us locally.
Yeah,
Except for
so
electricians. They
yeah,
have a program here, but outside of that, everybody has, if they want to become an apprentice, they need to leave.
all right. All right. So what's on the screen here is just a screenshot from the county assessor's website. So if you haven't gone on there before and owned property, you can go on and find out exactly where your tax dollars are going to what, each tax district, and this will be different from district to district. And this is an example home though in Port Angeles that is about the kind of the average valued home in the county. So This is back in 2011, the last time that the levy lid lift was increased. And you can see here, this home was paying $123 in taxes to the library. It was valued at about $250,000. If you jump to the current year, that home is nearly doubled in value, and it's paying $135 in taxes to the library. So a lot of those other amounts have changed. We're not, denying that taxes have gone up, but what is going to the library in this example property is $12 more over that 15-year period, is what is being collected. So again,
And
yeah.
was just to clarify on this, is that amount the library taxes at the 28 cent per thousand or at the 45 cent per thousand amount?
Yeah, good. But this right here is what is being collected at the 28 cent rate.
Okay.
Yep. So that's 2026. What this, if the levy passes on the 28th, the new rate would go in effect in 2027. So next year. And so if you go to the NOLS website, there is a calculator on NOLS.org levy where you can put in your exact property value and see what the monthly and annual cost increase would be. But you can see where the average home right now is about $400,000. According to the Department of Revenue, the assessed value of homes in Clallam County, the median is about 380,000, and the mean is about $415,000. So we're saying average is about 400,000 in Clallam County right now. That's a $5.67 increase per month in 2027 if the levy is passed. And again, you can find out exactly what that increase would be for you. We know home values vary greatly across the county, and so we encourage folks to go in and look at that. So just a quick recap of what we're really asking for with this proposition. The rate used to be 32 cents. Was voters approved restoring that to 50 cents in 2010, and the rate has fallen to 28 cents since 2011. Currently, our operating budget is about 7.3 million for 2026. This is slightly less than it was in 2025. I do like to highlight that we have been taking steps to try to reduce our expenses where we can as much as possible. But the fact is, about 70% of our budget is personnel. A lot of those other costs, we don't have a lot of control over, and there's only kind of so many tightening of the belt you can do without cutting staff, cutting hours. And so we are going out to the voters now and asking them to increase this levy rate so that we can sustain, services into the future and what we're offering now. We're not proposing a bunch of new services or new hours. I've gotten number of calls just in the past 2 days from folks wondering, can we start getting Sunday hours if we pass the levy or anything like that? We're not making promises to add. We are just wanting to maintain what we are providing and doing right now with this levy rate. As I mentioned, our budget is about 7.3 million. It's estimated that the 45 cent rate would bring in about 7.8 million. And so that is more than our current operating budget, but it is strategically planning for the future, knowing that cost will continue to go up from year to year. And we want to rebuild our reserves as we did in 2011. That was intentionally done at that time too, so we could build reserves, knowing the rate would shrink, and we could then pull from those reserves as long as possible. And so we don't want to be going out to the voters every 2 to 3 years asking to restore the rate again and again and again. I think we have a good track record here. It's been 15 years that we've been able to manage with this current rate. We thought we would be going out in 2020, but there are a number of factors during that time where we were able to stretch things further than expected. But we are at the point now where we fully funded through 2026, but we know changes will have to happen in 2027 if we don't pass the levy lift. And so a vote yes means maintaining current services, staffing, and maintaining our ability to really address these maintenance needs. We take a lot of pride in maintaining our facilities, and just offering good programming and responding to the community needs. If there's a no vote, we will have to reduce staffing, which does mean reducing hours, reducing services in 2027. We are going out now in April, so that we know what we have to plan for 2027. That gives us a 6-month period where our board, our staff, and community can work through what are these changes going to look like starting next year and have a solid plan going forward. So lots of information on the website, as I mentioned. If you haven't registered to vote, you can still do that online. I think through the 20th of April, you can do that online, and then you can get a ballot if you don't have it, or update your information in person at the county elections office if needed the last final week. So with that, open to any questions folks have about NOLS services or the levy.
Great. So let's see, we do have some questions in the chat, Noah.
Okay.
Let's start with, let's see, Dr. Sarah Hewling, how much is spent annually on the delivery service?
Yeah, I can't give you that exact amount right now. We have 2 part-time positions. Sorry, so delivery services to individuals. Yeah, you could send me an email. I can respond to you with those details. What I was going to get to is the courier service that we have. We deliver materials between each of our branches, and that was brought in-house in 2020. And so those couriers are now able to help with not only delivering materials between our branches, but making some of those deliveries to outreach patrons as well. But then the staffing, the exact cost of that service, I would need to look into more and give that exact breakdown. So I'm giving you accurate information on the exact cost.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, next question is from Nick. For the levy lift, how much will it cost per year from taxpayers in total dollars, not how much per assessed value?
Could you repeat that question just so I make sure
Yes. For the levy lift, how much will it cost per year from taxpayers in total dollars, not how much per assessed value?
Yeah, well, it is based off of assessed value, just to be clear. It is, right, it would start out at that 45 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. So we don't know what assessed value will be in 2027. We can make estimates off of what the assessed value is in 2026. So I think I had that on an earlier slide. I still have this up here, where based off of 2026 assessed values, the actual amount collected would be about 7.8 million. And that is what that would be. And so with the levy lid lift, we basically reset that rate. So there's a 1-year reset. And then for the following year, for 2028, we would only be able to increase that amount, right, by that 1%. So if it's 7.8, you could multiply that by the 1.01, and you would know what you're collecting in 2028. Like, we would not be able to collect any more than that, plus any new taxes on new construction, and that is it. So that 7.8 million is what NOLS would be collecting about that in 2027, and then you could calculate that at 1% increase per year beyond that.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Mitch, you had a question? Got more in the chat, but we've got time. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, Noah, when you're speaking about digitizing your print materials, it sounds like a pretty large lift. I was curious what that process looks like. Is it just someone in the back scanning documents all day long, or how do you go about doing something on that scale?
Yeah, there's a couple different ways. It depends on the material. For the photographs, that was, yeah, pretty labor intensive, and we did receive a state grant for that. I mean, that was probably 10 years ago, over 3 or 4 years, where we received multiple grants, and we were able to hire someone locally. For example, for a period of time, was a Peninsula College student that would work a few hours each day, just scanning those items into a system, and then our librarians would go back through and add, catalog those properly so people could actually find those. And so that was that process. With our microfilm. That was one where we hired a company, so they were all boxed up, all the reels of microfilm shipped off to a company that specializes in that. They could digitize them all and then send us a hard drive with all of that data that we could then upload to our website and make accessible. So different ways there, but I like to note with that digitizing process has been awesome to see how many people have been able to find that stuff, because it's stuff that might have been like sitting in boxes in a closet somewhere in a room and not very accessible. But now we have folks from around Clallam County, but also around the world, that are using those resources. We've had somebody from BBC a number of years ago doing research about the Alwa River, those asking to use historic photos from our collections. And so it's just neat to see how accessible that stuff is now.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah, and once it's digitized, it's accessible forever, virtually. So,
Yeah.
yeah, great. Thank you.
All right. The next question in the chat was from John. First of all, he wanted to say thank you. And then, when using online services from home through the library, are the speeds as fast as paid subscriptions?
Yeah, I mean, it really is just dependent on your internet connection. If you're traveling and on your phone somewhere, streaming something, or at your home, or somewhere else. But yeah, there aren't restrictions on the streaming quality, I'd say, of those services, or um, access to Ancestry.com is the one service that you have to be in the library building to use that service. So that's the restriction they have, protecting their business model, where you can't access that one from home. Ancestry.com, you have to come into the library and they can use that for free. But
Okay.
otherwise, there aren't many restrictions that I'm aware of on those.
Great. Next question from Sarah. How much does this April election cost, NOLS, versus if you had added the question to the general election in November?
Yeah, we don't know. The county assessor doesn't provide exact estimates, because there's so many different variables in it. We will get a bill after this. We know it will cost more than if we were on a general election with more. That is the how that goes. Our board did make a decision to go now, determining it was the best time for NOLS. As I mentioned, we have to budget and plan for 2027. And so there's the thinking there. If we know now, then we'll have enough time to kind of plan and react. And there are advantages of going in a special election like this, and being able to tell our story and get our information out, and not necessarily be mixed up with a bunch of other things happening as well. So the board, makes a decision to make an ask like this, not wanting it to fail. And so, yeah, there is strategic, I think, timing there for the library, but we will, I'd say the county, we're one of the only county-wide districts as well. There's the port, the library district, and the county itself, but most of the other special districts you see across the county, whether it's fire districts or school districts, you look at past expenses just for those special elections, they're not good examples of exactly how much it will cost, because we're countywide. But we are, we'll get a bill after this election to cover the cost. We're aware of that, prepared for that, and we'll see what it is. Yeah.
Sarah, I can tell you that at the port, when we've had to do a primary, and we were the only entity countywide that had to do a primary, it was about $35,000 for the port on the bill that we received from the county for that primary. And that was a couple years ago. But anyway, it's a data point.
Yeah.
Um,
And I'll also note they did let us know there likely be some cost savings with us being the only item on the ballot. They were able to do the voter's guide, right, just as an insert into the ballot itself. So there's
Okay.
not, right, the cost of printing a separate voter's guide or any of that. So yeah, we're interested in finding that out, but we'll have a new data point in a month or two. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Okay, so next question. How much of your expenses are spent in the West End versus Port Angeles and Sequim?
Yeah, I can provide a rough breakdown of most of our activity is in Port Angeles and Sequim. And as I was saying, most of our support services are based out of Port Angeles as well. So it's kind of hard to break that down super clearly because our IT department, for example, is based out of PA, but they routinely, you're right, are making trips out to Clallam Bay and Forks to do work. And same with our collection. It's a system-wide collection that floats around between the branches. So we're not buying books only to live in Clallam Bay or only to live in Forks. The buildings are different sizes. So, most of the collection actually does live in Port Angeles because we have a 35,000 square foot building here and it can live here, but people can put holds on things, staff request things, and then they do, right, travel between the branches and then live there if they get checked out there. So a majority of our services are really at a system level, right? The cost of we are our local government, so we have to have our own HR, IT, facilities, maintaining things. They are based out of PA. And so the number of staff on the West End, Clallam Bay and Forks, the public services staff, most of them work at both branches. And we've found that to be more efficient with the staffing there and the needs there. But we have librarians that work, out on the West End, public service staff. And we are really focused on and making sure we have good services on the West End. And we know services are even more, I'd say, important there. A community like Clallam Bay, there's really not a lot else out there in terms of government services. Something we're looking into bringing to Clallam Bay specifically right now is a notary service because we have staff, right? 2 staff working there each day. And if they can be certified and trained to become notaries, then someone needs to get a document notarized in Clallam Bay. They don't have to drive 40 minutes to Forks to get that done. And so that's one where we've had number of community members that have said that would be helpful. Can you do that? And we are responding to that. And that's a unique need in Clallam Bay. And so we are, kind of listening to those West End needs and trying to respond and meet those, and are definitely dedicated to providing good service there in Forks and Clallam Bay.
Right. So Nick says, based on the slide that you showed earlier, taxpayers would pay an extra 2.9 million in 27. And he says, or am I missing something? 7.8 million minus 4.9 million.
Correct.
So
So it's a big one-time, right, increase. And because we have been capped at that 1%, we've been making that work, but basically we are trying to reset that levy up to 45 cents to cover those operating expenses. So there have been a number, just the past 5 years, a number of kind of one-off circumstances that have allowed us to stretch our dollars further. An example could be we had about a $500,000 bequest that allowed specifically to cover collection materials for a number of years. And so that money's not going to last forever, right? But it allowed us to extend how long we could go before asking for a levy lid lift. when we had millions of dollars saved up specifically for the Squim Library project, the past 5 years, and interest rates spiked back in 2022, 2023. We had that money sitting, waiting to pay our contractors, but we were earning a lot of interest on that money until we spent it. It's no longer there. We're no longer earning interest on that. But that was, there's kind of these nuanced things that allowed us to stretch our dollars for a pretty long period of time, but it was not sustainable. And so we are to the point where we need to restore this levy rate to that 45 cent and allow us to continue operating as we have been.
So Vanessa asks, how much does it cost to print or make copies, and is there a limit?
Yeah, so we do offer free printing up to $2.50 per week. And so the normal rates are 10 cents for a black and white page, 15 cents for a double-sided black and white page, 20 cents for a color page, 25 cents for a double-sided color page. So once you've printed up to that 250 amount, then you pay beyond that. And so there's no limit there. We're able to cover our costs with those rates. And so, the printing is very popular and used a lot. There are folks that print a ton and pay for it, but there's a lot of folks that are just needing like that one page for an application or something they're needing to submit. They can run in, print that out real quick, and be on their way. And that is available at each of our branches. We also have scanners at each of our branches, flatbed document scanners. And then we do offer to send faxes as well for folks that cost $1 for each of those faxes to be sent.
So one thing I just wanted to bring up is the port found that because of these prevailing wage expenses to do a public work, to have an entity outside of the, hire somebody to do a project, we found that if we did something called self-performing work, it lowered the cost overall dramatically, and which meant that our own employees did the work. We were, as an example, needed to rebuild a bathroom at the Port Angeles Boat Haven, and we got a bid to have that done. And it was several $100,000 more than what we were prepared for. And so we had our own employees build it, and we saved that several $100,000. And so that kept the money local, and we saved a ton of money. And what we've done now is interlocal agreements with other taxing districts where our employees can work on your project, and then you just pay us what it cost, what was our cost. And that can be a big savings for local governments instead of having to put it out to bid, do an RFP or an RFQ, put it out to bid and that kind of thing. So if it's a smaller project, that's might be something you want to consider. There's a great question in the chat here. Relative to other communities, libraries, levies, how does that 45 cents per thousand compare with other libraries across the state?
Yeah, great question. That will be, I'd say, kind of the norm going forward. There was a period of about 5 years from 2020 during the pandemic, kind of put a pause on a lot of levy lid lifts across the state, and so there really wasn't a levy lid lift from a public library, for about 4 or 5 years during that time. But last year, there are a number of other libraries in a very similar position to us that gotten down around that 27, 28 cents and passed levies, everywhere from Fort Vancouver down south to Kitsap to Whatcom, Skagit, that all passed levies going, up to either a number of them went to the full 50 cent, the maximum rate, and others were around that 45 cent rate as well. So you may hear in the news, some of the bigger library systems in the state as well, such as Snow Isle, Snohomish County, and King County, Seattle are all expected to go out for levy lists later this year. But yeah, you can find that information on the state's website and other places. But for counties similar to ours, that is, most are going to be in that 45 to 50 cent as a kind of sustainable level to offer library services.
Okay, well, great. I just noticed at 9:02, so I should probably call it quits for the morning. Thank you so much for joining us, Noah, and we appreciate what the library does for our community. And again, thank you. So with that, I hope you all have a terrific day, and we're going to end the recording now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.
Bye-bye.